Okay, all right. I'm going to give it back to you.
See, what you did, you slid the brush sideways, and when you slide it sideways, you lose all control, and it just starts dumping paint out.
Yeah.
But the main thing about the brush is learning the pressure. This same brush will do a big old fat stripe if you mash it.
Mm-hmm.
If you really mash it, it's unloading paint very rapidly, but it's putting a real fat stripe down.
I see this.
But you can take the same brush, let up a little bit, pull a much thinner stripe using the same brush, the same load of paint, but you're putting less pressure down. The less pressure you put, the narrower it gets. You can let up even more and do a little bitty tiny stripe. And it's still the same brush full of paint, but it's only got the tip of the brush touching, so you end up with a narrower line.
That's awesome. And it's the same brush, the same. Okay.
Same mix of paint and everything. But see the difference in putting the pressure down?
Yep.
And so once you find one you like, you have to maintain that pressure.
And that's muscle memory.
Exactly.
So when I was doing this line, I was consciously thinking about locking my hand in the same position and just moving it, and it worked.
Once you get locked in, it's not really going to change much unless the brush runs out of paint.
Yeah.
Or something.
Which is the same thing when you're painting a car with a pneumatic spray gun. You're a good painter too, but you find that sweet spot, that 4.5 inches off the deck, and you lock in.
One pass away from getting a run, but you're shooting it good and wet.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If you don't get a little teardrop in a corner someplace,
you're not putting enough on.
Yeah, you came from the same school I did.
Yep, there's more paint in the can.
Well, I would rather shoot it slick than buff it slick.
Yeah.
You know
well, a run's easier to repair than dry spray. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. Oh, a dry spray car all over.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare to buff.
Yeah. Well, listen, this is great. I'm going to practice my butt off, but we got a guitar to stripe.
Yes, we do.
Okay, this is a Fender Telecaster. Belongs to a friend of mine. His name is James Otto. He's a country star, and yeah. We can tell it's James Otto's guitar because it says Otto on the back. Right. James has got a new record coming out, and he was part of the Music Mafia with Big and Rich and all those guys, and has had a #1 single. He's a sought-after songwriter, and he's a gearhead like you and me too. So it's kind of fun to be buddies with him, and we got a lot of stories to swap.
So he's got cool guitars and cool
guitars and cool cars. He's building a wicked cool little '66 Chevy pickup right now that I'm real excited about.
We need to paint a guitar to match his truck.
That's exactly what we need to do. Yeah. Absolutely.
That would work.
Yep. So this is a Tele. You've already got your middle line down here.
I put a center line in Stabilo. It's nothing worse than getting a design finished and the whole thing is leaning over at the top where you didn't get it centered.
Right.
So all we've basically done, we pulled a little center line down the middle, and it's going to enable us to do a design that is in the center line of the guitar.
Yeah.
I'm going to tie some stuff off of this design. There's not a whole lot of area. A Telecaster is dominated by the pick guards. So we've got this area right here that we can stripe in, and all the way up into this corner.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to remember the shape of the guitar is very important. If you start doing stuff that's fighting this shape, it's not going to look right.
Right.
So we have to constantly keep in mind what shape it is, but we have a lot of freedom here because we can do what we want to, and I'm not going to run just a straight line around the perimeter of the guitar. That would be boring. So I'm going to start with the design in the middle, and then we'll tie it in, and I'm going to use ivory, and I've got a real bright red that we've been practicing with, that color, and we'll do red and ivory two-tone, but I have tinted the color to match the color that's on the pick guard.
Yeah.
And,
and all that goes back to what we were talking about before, you letting the subject tell you what it needs. It kind of talks to you, doesn't it?
It'll tell you what it needs, yeah. I mean, obviously, apple green and purple ain't going to work on a candy apple red guitar.
No.
You know?
No.
I mean, somebody may like those colors, but I'm thinking about, #1, everything's got your name on it, so you do something weird and everybody goes, hey, my boy's lost it. He's gone colorblind on me because that ain't it.
Yeah.
You want to be proud of your work.
Yep.
So you don't do anything that would make you look stupid.
Right. Good, good to remember. Don't do anything.
Somebody wants a pearl pink car painted, you might try to talk them into a different color.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want it to look like Mary Kay going down the road.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially on a street rod. And there was some wild colors in the 70s. Remember the
Well,
pastel
70s and
era?
early 80s, yeah.
All of
yeah.
those are getting repainted now, too.
Yep,
You know, you
yep.
think?
So there's somebody wants to come up as a pinstriper, there's going to be work for a long time, probably.
Yeah, redoing all the ones that were crazy.
Yeah.
It's like the 70 van era. We did some crazy stuff in the 70s, and it was cool for then, but you see one now and it looks kind of funky.
Yeah.
It's like, what were we thinking?
Well, styles change. You know, now the hot thing with muscle cars is pro touring, and everybody wants these mean-looking cars, and, you know, the pro street cars with the big, giant SR tires on the back. That's kind of yesterday's news, but I don't know. It's all relative. It's always fun to see fresh styles coming up, I think.
Well, everybody wants something they can drive, and obviously a car with drum brakes and old 60s style suspension is not particularly fun to drive. So you put disc brakes to make it safer and all that.
Yep.
But all of the suspension stuff that Detroit Speed is coming out with is marvelous.
Marvelous
stuff. The car drives good, it stops good, it steers good,
so
it handles, it's safer.
The bottom line is it's safer, absolutely. We're doing the same thing with our Project Camaro. It's got C5 Corvette front brakes that are bolt-on.
Cool.
Anybody can get now. They don't have to go through a junkyard. It's a kit.
Didn't have that back then.
They didn't have it back then. And drum brakes, when they're soaking wet, that's no fun.
Glad to see it progress, though.
Well, it is. It makes more people have the privilege of being able to enjoy it. So.
Striping changes slowly. Styles evolve.
Yeah.
Things that we were doing in the 90s are not being done anymore. The sponge fade graphics with all the splatter and everything.
Yeah.
It was cool then, but nobody's doing it now. But the old Von Dutch, old school designs are still popular.
Well, that's the fundamentals.
They
that's
still
the foundation.
Yeah, it still works. We're going to put a little ivory on here first. Once I get the ivory on, we'll let it tack up and then we'll put a little red with it. But I want the ivory to be pretty much the dominating color. Now what I've done, I've gone to a smaller brush.
I see that.
That pulls a smaller line, because a guitar being a small piece to work with, you obviously don't want the stripe to be just big old fat grumpy looking stripe on it. You got to put some nice tidy little lines down. This is a 5-0, and we're using a King 13, which is made by Mack. And this brush has very good control. I love the line width of it. I did a bunch of guitars for Gibson, and when I was there, I was using this exact size brush, and it worked real well. And I had a bunch of guitars to do, and they all had to look alike. And it was real consistent. I didn't have any problems with things changing on me. You know. We're going to tie this in. I'm going to come around here and tie this in right here. This is my easy side, so I can match that side easier if I do it last.
Explain that to me, an easy side. You're left-handed, is that what you mean?
If I was right-handed, that would be my easy side.
Right.
And I'm left-handed, so this is my easy side. A man that could stripe with both hands would have it made.
Yeah.
I've only seen it done one time, and it was in Daytona during Bike Week. Guy loaded up 2 brushes at the same time. So I stopped to watch because I thought this may be something cool. He sat on a Harley with a brush in each hand and did a duplicate design with both hands at the same time.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Wow.
Got my attention.
I've never seen anything like that.
Because I tried it later on when there wasn't anybody watching. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
I couldn't make it work. So I'm like, well, okay. But I did get to see it that one time, and I was impressed. But anybody that can stripe with both hands is very, very good, and I take my hat off to him.
And I was watching you twist that brush as you came around that corner and roll that brush.
So it won't flare out and get wide on it. Now we got to figure out how to tie all this together. But I'm going to come up here first, and I skip around sometimes on a guitar when I'm striping it, so it's not necessarily a specific order of the way it's done. You move around and you kind of figure it out as you go. If you drew the design out, I promise you, before you got through with it, you would change your mind and you would change the design, and there would be something that you didn't like about it, or wait, I got a better idea. And
So you just find it's better to freehand.
just make it up as you go along and just have fun with it. It's like doodling for me.
Yeah.
And most of us are the same way. We're just having fun with it. And you'll see something that, wonder if this will work. And you'll try something, and if it doesn't work, you wash it off. And if it did work, you keep going.
Yeah.
Ivory on that candy red is really pretty.
Yeah, it ties in with the pick guard beautifully there too. I've always thought that an ivory color looks really classy against a contrast.
Well, it's an antique looking color. A pure, clean white doesn't look old. It looks brand new. And everybody nowadays is wanting stuff to have an antique look to it. So they use colors that are old looking right out, you know, right off the bat. It doesn't look like a brand new guitar. It looks like one that's been put up. A lot of these change color as they get older too.
Yeah, the pick guards lose their whiteness.
Every once in a while a hair will come out of a brush. If it spits a hair out, just grab it and pull it out before it ends up as part of the stripe. My buddy in California used to say, leave the hair in it, it makes it look more like it's done with a brush. But I don't like to leave hair in them. It looks like a mistake when you do that.
And that's the same brush you started with, right? 'Cause
Yeah, I'm not changing brushes. I wanted to add a little scroll to it right here just to give it some interest. Now they make a brush for scrolling and it works quite well, but if you're just putting a little element in a design, you can do it with the same brush. Not a big deal.
And you told me earlier that a shorter brush makes doing tight corners a little easier,
A shorter brush turns a corner quicker,
Right.
yes. A longer brush is real good for long straight lines, like the length of a vehicle.
Yeah.
You always want a longer brush for that. I'm going to go up here and we're going to make this corner have a little interest, since they got a nice big area to play with right here. The fun part is making it up as you go along. And sometimes you'll try something that's, wow, where'd that come from? And if it works, leave it, and if it doesn't, you always have the option of washing it off.
Yeah.
I see how that works in the corner there?
I do, and it looks, it draws off the angle of it. So, yeah, I was wondering how you're gonna do this, because the panel is a panel. You don't have
Right.
any distractions, but if your
Right.
hand bumps into that or hand bumps into that,
There's a lot of obstacles
Yeah.
in the way, the knobs. You know, everything is in the way. We've got a Cadillac emblem that I'm going to have to do something
I
with.
don't even know why, but yes, there's a caddy
It's a
emblem there.
Cadillac edition guitar.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
But, yeah, I'm going to go around that with some of this kind of detail.
Yeah,
But I'm also going to do some up in here and tie the whole works back together. So
yeah.
it's a creative process. It takes a little thought,
Yeah.
but that's the fun part of it. And every one of them is different. If you're making it up as you go along, you're obviously not going to do the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
So it's never going to get boring for you, right?
Yep. Now, I would look at this, and if I was doing this by myself, I would just say, this looks fine, I haven't screwed it up yet. I would quit, but you're going to keep going,
Oh,
right?
we're not done yet.
Okay.
No, we're just getting going
I'd
good.
be so scared to mess it up.
Well, if you mess it up, you fix it.
I know.
You just wash it off and fix it.
All right.
That's
all
what
right.
they make rags for.
All right.
No, we're gonna tie it all together and make it continuous. I don't want anything loose. It's all got to hook together.
Mm-hmm.
And it just looks, it doesn't really look right if you don't make it a continuous design. It's hard to explain until you see it, and then it's like, oh, I see why it works now.
How many guitars have been done on this piece of foam?
Oh, a bunch. I did 1,010 for Gibson in 2 years, but I used their setup.
Right.
But I've done a bunch of individual stuff. It's just safer to not scratch the back up. Of course, when I was doing the Gibson guitars, they were all brand new being built, and I was doing them at the plant, and really a lot of fun. That's just a great product. Super bunch of guys too. I really had fun being there. That was a real thrill to get to stripe for those guys. Real honor.
Well, one of the cool things I found, I was fortunate enough to be able to be given a tour there. I didn't realize how much of those guitars are handmade.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it was fantastic
And
to see true craftsmen
like
like that.
scraping the binding.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
done by hand.
This lovely lady was scraping the
Yeah.
binding. That was her job, is to expose the binding.
And that's a tedious job. I mean, that's not something everybody can do.
Yep.
But yeah, the people there care about their product, and they do a really good job with it. Now, I had fun being there. It's a great bunch of guys. I go by and visit every once in a while just to let them know I'm still out here working.
Right.
But I'll get back in there eventually. Hopefully they'll still do some more. I can't wait to see one of them on TV, somebody playing it.
Yep.
You know that's eventually going to happen. That'll be fun. Yeah, at one of these award shows or something, there'll be a Les Paul striped.
Well, we'll have to talk Mr. Otto into bringing this on the road with them and
Sure.
doing some stuff.
Absolutely.
He's a big fan of yours as well, by the way.
Well, that's nice to hear. Now, I've got to figure out how to hook this all together and make it complete. I'm going to tie this line back down, and I'm going to blend it out right there at that point, like that.
Mm-hmm.
No loose ends. Can't keep anything. It's all got to connect one way or another.
Now, why is that? Is it just look unfinished if it's not?
Yeah, I'm not sure how you describe what it looks like if it's not, but it does look unfinished. It looks like you forgot to leave a line off here and there, you know. I'm going to, if you make a mistake or you see something you don't like, just wash it off while it's wet. I didn't like where that one was ending up,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm going to pull it back a little bit, and we'll make it go a different direction here. Make sure you get it all off.
So if you're doing design guides with a Stabilo pen, you did your center line with the Stabilo, and you weren't worried about striping over top of that, were you?
No. Actually, paint, it goes on so thin. It's water-based. It's a water-based pencil.
Yeah.
And it goes on so thin that it doesn't really, the adhesion is not a problem.
Gotcha.
It
So-
doesn't affect the adhesion unless you get it on too thick, and then you can see it. But no, you can paint right over the top of it. It is not a wax, so it's not going to fish out of the paint or do anything weird to it. Stabilos are water-based. You can actually wash it off with a little bit of water on a rag, and it just goes away. I got a brush that's starting to shed, And when they shed bad enough, you obviously have to have a funeral service for them.
I was going to ask you, how many years does a brush last, or does that depend on how well you take care of it?
Years. Weeks is more like it if you're using them every day. I've had a brush last a month before, which is a good long life for a striping brush you're using every day. They've paid for themselves by the time they wear out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to balance this part of the design up as much as possible. Past the center, it can change and do pretty much whatever you want it to do, but I wanted the middle to have a certain balance to it. And the guitar is so different from side to side. Obviously, the same design wouldn't work on both sides anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's asymmetrical. You've got the cutaway for the fretboard at the bottom.
Yeah, and you lose this whole corner up here. A lot of the Gibsons I did not have a pick guard, so I was able to stripe this area up in here. But the pick guard covers it up if they add one eventually. Now the fun is figuring out how to hook these two together.
I'm just going to let you, I'm just going to watch.
This is when my Shaky Jake training comes in. I think, I wonder what he would do, you know.
And Shaky Jake was your mentor, and he was
He was my mentor, and he actually learned how to stripe from Von Dutch. He was just a kid at the time, and his dad was a minister in Hollywood, so after school he would jump on his bike and he would ride down to wherever Dutch was working and hang out. He started striping in '56. I met him in '73 at Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the man, I mean, changed my life. He really did. Why he took me under his wing, I'll never know, but I'm proud that he did, and it made a difference. It made a big difference.
Well, it's nice to have people that care enough to pass on their skills. And
I think the deal was at the time with him, since he was in California and I'm in Tennessee, there's no way I'm going to steal any of his business anyway, you know?
Right, right.
And so we became real good friends. I actually made 4 trips to Costa Mesa to work with him. And, oh, we got a mess.
Gravity happens. I'm going to put that right there.
I would work with him a week at a time out there, and we just had a lot of fun. It was we spoke the same language, so to speak, and just really had a good time. And he taught me new things every time I went. It was like going to school. And we would go workshops and do striping repairs at body shops and stuff. And of course, everybody knew him. He was from Costa Mesa, and he was a big Orange County guy. And just really can't put a price on what that was worth.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We got him here once for 2 weeks, and took him to the Grand Ole Opry and fed him Crystal hamburgers, and he just had a big time.
How old was he at that time?
Well, he died of cancer at 52. So
oh my gosh!
When he was here, it was 85. He was 40.
That's young. Gosh, that's
49.
young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was devastating for me.
Yeah, I was picturing a much older gentleman, and it's a shame that we lost him so soon.
I guess he was about 49 or 50 when he was here, and we took him all over the place. He had a big time. We took him to the Grand Ole Opry, and Les Paul was playing.
Oh my gosh!
At the Opry, and he
wow.
was just blown away.
Yeah.
All right.
Very cool.
There's your first color.
Very cool.
Is it working?
It works fantastic, and you're drawing off the design elements and.
See, this kind of got in the way a little bit.
Yeah.
But you work around whatever's in the way, you just work around it. I would have pulled all of this down a little bit more had that not been there. But since it already is, we'll work around it. And I'm going to add some of the red to it. And I'm going to sign it first, though. Always sign your work. Number one, if you're proud of it, you're going to put your name on it. Everybody knows who did it when they see it. And if anything ever happens to it, they know who to call to fix it.
Absolutely.
But Shaky Jake always said you have to have, your signature has to be small enough to be covered with a dime. Now, whoever started that, I don't know. If you got a real long name, I guess you would be in trouble, but I started out signing it real big, and he got all over me about that. Boy, you ain't putting a billboard on the man's car. So I started learning how to do it smaller and smaller and smaller.
Unbelievable. I can't even read that, it's so small.
There you go. What do you think?
Fascinating. I've always wanted to watch you do that because I've seen it on dozens of cars. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's fun. The smaller you get it, the
Yeah.
more everybody, wow, how'd you do that? Some of these brushes have a better point than others too.
Right.
So you have to get a brush that's got a good tight point. But
How long do you have to wait before adding a second color? Because can I touch that now?
no, it's still wet.
All right.
But once it tacks up a little bit, the second color will not bleed out into it.
Right.
If you put wet on wet, you have a bleeding problem. But at this point, it's probably tacked up just enough to where we can come back and add some of the red without getting in trouble. This is fire red right out of the can. It's a kind of an orangey red. And the ivory has been tinted a little bit. I actually added a drop of green to it to make it look more like that.
Okay.
Wash your brush out good and get all the paint out of it that you can, because the first color will bleed out into the second color. If you don't get enough of it out, you can see it.
And what are you using to clean your brush? Is it just a wax and grease remover?
This is the one-shot high-temp reducer.
Understood. Okay. So what's the youngest pinstriper that you've ever taught?
12 years old. And the boy just did his first car.
So
And
he's out there striping.
yes, and getting paid for it. And he's 12.
That's awesome.
Is that cool? or
That's
what?
better than cutting grass, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sure he's probably ahead at his school. He actually striped the door to, like the shop class, he striped the door at school
Unreal.
where he goes to school. So they'll remember him a long time after he's gone from the school, you know. We're going to fill this in right here in the middle with a little fire red. And you have to be careful, obviously, because if you make a mistake, you can end up having to do the ivory over. But it really, it brings the colors out so pretty when you do the right color combination. Obviously, you put a goofy color out here and it's not going to work too well, but the red and the ivory is very compatible.
Isn't that cool? It pops that ivory so nicely now. It really lifts that off there.
See how it's making the design have a center?
Yep.
And there's a lot of places we can put this, but we have to kind of be careful with it. We don't want to get crazy. In this spot right here, for example, there's a couple of options, but the one that stands out to me the most is a line coming out of here and going back into there.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. And when you say filling in, the mental image I have that is taking a brush and coloring it in, but you're striping it in.
Exactly, and I want to leave a space on each side of that second color too. I'm not trying to completely fill that in. I just want to accent the shape, and I go all the way to the point with it. The knob gets in the way every time. It's one of those little obstacles that we were talking about. When you get it on the knob, just wipe it off.
Yeah, it'll come off that chrome easily.
Now, there's several places we can come with this. One of the things I want to do, Von Dutch connected a lot of stuff with half circles, and Shaky Jake did the same thing. So I'm going to come out of here. I'm going to come out of this point right here with a line that comes up and stops. And it's going to do the same thing on this side. And then we'll connect those two together. Now to connect it together, we're going to do 2 half circles. I'm not going to try to go all the way across. I'm going to come to the center and stop. I'm going to come to the middle and stop. Sometimes you can get in trouble trying to do that in one stroke, and it's simpler to go to the center from this side and just tie it right together like that.
Yep.
Now one side's a little shorter than the other, so I'm going to lengthen this up just a little bit right here for balance.
So that gives it a dimensional look too. It lifts the design off the
Some
guitar.
of the guys are actually striping a shadow stripe across right there,
Ah, yeah.
which involves taking some clear. They make a clear one shot, and you add just a little shot of black to it, and
Right.
then you go stripe across there.
In essence, it's a candy.
But it has to be
Transit.
dry when you do that, otherwise it just makes a mess. But see how the second color is pulling it out?
Absolutely, yeah. It finishes it. And like I said, I would have left it like that, but I'm so glad that you're not. And showing me and opening up my eyes to the fact that it's not done until the design tells you it's done.
Well, everybody has a different idea of what works and what doesn't, you know. And obviously, some people like more conservative and more complicated and all that. I think it's a balance thing. You have to get a balance between the two colors, and you know when you get it. When it gets there, you stop. You can't overwork it. If you put way too much on there, everybody knows it. Oh, he should have stopped before he got that far. You know, you've seen some that just kept going and kept going and kept going.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're not trying to paint the guitar with that brush.
Yeah.
We're trying to accent it. I want to put some color down into here, and there's a lot of ways we can do it. One of the things we can do, I'm going to come in right here with a line, and it's going to come down in here and stop. Now I can't leave that single because it looks goofy just out there hung out to dry by itself, so I'm going to do a teardrop right here and double that line up, and it's still going to come down to the same point. Now I'm going to come around the ivory with a red loop.